Hello, 6th grade. This is Mr. Wu, and I'm here to teach you how to find percentages using our is over of structure we learned in class today. So is over of. I'm going to go over 2 questions from the homework, unless you're in 6E, in which case your homework was the class packet. And then I'm going to go over 1 question from the classwork, which everybody had to do. So I'm going to start with, so just a reminder, this is finding percent using is over of. So I'm going to start with a question from the classwork. On page 3 of the classwork, where we're solving for our answers, I'm going to look at 13 is 20% of what number? So I'm going to set up my equivalent fractions. We already start with 100 on the bottom over here, which means it is percentage, right? Percents are always out of 100. And then over here, we have our is over of. So all we have to do is annotate our problem. So what's grouped with is? 13. What's grouped with percent? 20. Let me redraw that to make it a little neater. 20%. And what is grouped with our of? Well, that is our what number. So think to yourself and try this out on your paper. Where am I going to put all of these numbers? I'm going to give you 10 seconds to think, and then I'm going to fill in those answers. So our is right here. So we're going to put our 13 here. Our percent is over on the left, as we already figured out. 20% means 20 out of 100, so our 20 goes up here. And finally, we have of what number. So of is paired with what number? So it's a number we don't know, and that's where we talked in class about using x, our variable. So a variable just stands for a number that we don't know yet. So if this was an easy problem, we could just use our equivalent fractions and multiply by something to get from 13 to 20. However, 13 is not a factor of 20, so we have to do something else. If you remember from class, that is simplify. So I'm going to make a new page. We have 20 out of 100 equals 13 out of x. Well, we can't simplify the right side of the equation because we have an x, and we don't know what x is. So we have to choose to simplify the left side. So we have 20/100ths. It's going to be equivalent to some smaller fraction. Well, I know that 2 goes into 10, right? 2 goes into 10, so 20 must go into 100. So I'm going to divide both my numerator and denominator by 20. Divided by 20, divided by 20. 20 divided by 20 is 1, and 20 times 5 times 2 is 10, right? So 100 divided by 20 is 5. So now that we know that 20/100ths is 1/5, we can rewrite our problem. 1/5 equals 13 out of x. Well, now we can see that 1 can go to 13 easily. 1 times 13 is 13. So we have to do the same thing on our denominator. If you don't know what 5 times 13 is off the top of your head, you can always do it out. 5 times 3 is 15. Carry the 1. 5 times 1 is 1. Add the 1. We have 65. So x equals 65. That is not a 6. 65. Or, if we look at our original problem, 13 is 20% of 65. The number we're looking for is 65. All right, moving on to the homework. I'm going to work on the top left and top middle problems. So our first problem is, what is 75% of 160? So once again, we're going to annotate what's grouped with is, what's grouped with percent, and what's grouped with of. Set up our equivalent fractions. Left one's out of 100, which means percent. And we have is over of. So this is our part. This is our whole. So think for yourself, try it out in your paper. I'm giving you 10 seconds again. All right, our is with what? Right, is what? So we're going to put an x because we don't know what number that is yet. For our percent, we have 75. So 75 is going to be out of 100. And for our of, we have 160. Once again, these are not easy to work with. So we have to simplify. 75%. Well, 75% is 75 out of 100, which is going to be equal to something. Let's think about money. So what can we divide by? Thinking about money, 75. Well, 75 cents is 3/4. Quarters are worth 25 cents. We know 25 goes into 75. 100 cents is 4/4. So we can also divide by 25 to get 3/4. So 75%, 75 out of 100 is 3/4. So we can rewrite our problem. 3/4 or 3/4 is equal to x out of 160. Well, now I can see 4 and 16. 4 times 4 is 16, right? Times 4 would be 16. To get the extra 0, we can add a 0. To get 4 times 40 gives us 160. So now we just have to do the same thing for our numerator. 3 times 4 is 12, so 3 times 40 is 120. So looking at our original question, 75% of 160 is 120. Last problem, center top. 15 is 5% of what number? One last annotation. So, what color did I use last time? Red, purple, green. Cool. So red, our is grouped with 15. Our percent is grouped with 5. Oops. That's our circle. Percent's grouped with 5. And finally, of is grouped with what number? One more time, equivalent fractions. Equivalent fraction out of 100. So we're looking for our percent, our is, and our of. Give you 10 seconds. So our is, here's our is. So we have 15. It's grouped with our is. We're looking for our percent. That's 5. So our 5 goes out of 100. And finally, our of is our what number. So that's our x. This one is actually easy, unlike the last two. So we don't have to simplify. 5 goes into 15, right? 5 times 3 gives us 15. 100 times what? Well, times 3, because we did the same thing. We have to do the same thing as on the numerator. What's 100 times 3? 300. So x is equal to 300. 15%, or sorry, 15 is 5% of 300 is your final answer. I hope this video helps. You're going to have to do the rest of the problems on your own, including describing how you solve percent problems in words, unless you're in 6E. In that case, you are solving all those problems in the course, the classwork packet. Hope you have a good evening, and I'll see you tomorrow.